Welcome to MMT Chats. This episode is brought to you by ISCAR with new ideas for machining intelligently.
Welcome to another quick MMT Chat. I'm Christina Fugis, Editorial Director with MoldMaking Technology. My guests today are from Action Mold and Machining in Grand Rapids, Michigan. We have Additive Manufacturing Manager Greg Nemechek and Matt Duffy, Marketing and Advanced Development for AM. And we are going to discuss additive manufacturing education and ROI, and that's because both of them strongly believe that education and ROI go hand in hand, because without a solid understanding of additive manufacturing's value, you can't possibly understand the true ROI of the new tooling. So hello, Greg and Matt.
Hi, Christina.
Hello.
So let's get into this. So let's first set the stage with the team and the technology that make up Action Mold and Machining's additive capabilities. So Greg, why don't you start us off on your background?
Okay, my background, I've been in the industry since the early 80s, and I've served in just about every role in this mold manufacturing industry. A number of years ago, I moved into managing of like the CNC department, and then after a period of time, I moved into managing IT, and then I moved to a different company and went back into design. I had been in design for a number of years and was a mold maker before that. And I reached a point in my career here in the mold making industry where I was just burned out and I was ready for a change. And I decided that I was going to move on. And I told the owner of the shop, "You got 2 years to replace me, and then I'm going to be done." And when that 2-year period was about to expire and I was ready to exit, additive manufacturing came into the picture, and I was asked, "Would you want to head this up?" So I thought, you know what? It's brand new. It's something I don't have any real knowledge about, and I'd love to learn something new. So I stayed in the industry, and here we are today.
That's awesome. Additive brought you back to life. I love that in mold making. So Matt, what about you? What's your background?
So my background is schooling wise, I'm a materials engineer. Didn't use a ton of it right after school. Was in product development for fuses, and then moved over to Renishaw to work in their AM department. First couple of years was me and one other guy to support basically all of North America. So it was a little bit of trial by fire, but it meant you got to learn every facet of supporting a customer, from machine install, PM, operation, applications, whatever it was. That morphed into needing to understand more of what happens after printing. So when Renishaw moved into the facility they're in now, we spent a lot of time making sure we understood how to design a facility for AM. And I spent a lot of time working with customers through that process. But then I became the production manager for the shop floor they have there, which ran at one point up to 12 machines, basically doing runoffs for customers and everything like that. But it also meant I was responsible for the post-processing side of it. So I had to learn the part polishing, EDM, CNC, bead blast, whatever it was that we needed to do to finish a part, including some of the CMM and metrology side of it all. And on top of that, at one point I was a service manager because one guy left and I was the guy that knew the most on managing that. So it was a little bit of jack of all trades for a while, but that was when I met Greg through a software event that Renishaw had hosted, and things just kind of clicked, and I was working with him through the installation process. So came out to Action Mold, we looked at the facility, said, this is the area that makes the most sense. We looked at building drawings, what walls we can tear down, where we've got facilities for power, water, air, whatever it was. And then we just kind of continued that conversation. I left Renishaw to work for EWI because they had all metal technologies. So it was a chance for me to learn all the new technologies, to me anyway, and really get an understanding of what metal AM was in the big picture, not just in one OEM. And then last year hit, as it did for a lot of people, and I was no longer with EWI. But I kept in touch with Greg all through the years. We did projects with him while I was at EWI, focusing on tooling and proving out why AM makes sense. And here we are today, working to help the guys grow the business as best we can and really push the machine to do things that a lot of people can't do.
Your experience is such an asset to a mold builder. I think what a little gift for this shop. So talk about, Greg or Matt, the technology that you specifically have a little bit, and then you do have an additional person on your additive team right now.
Yeah. The additional person we have is a graduate from WMU. His name is Zachary Glasscock. He's a very sharp individual. I'm really, really glad we've got him on our team. He's working with me to develop the powder parameters, and he's doing a fantastic job. We took some training last summer, and it was just in time. And he's been developing not only different layer thickness parameters. So we went from a 30 to a 60 micron, and now he's developing an 80 micron. And we also are developing a porous parameter where we can print porosity in a block so we can vent things. So he's been a very valuable asset to us, and we're really glad to have him on board. Our machine is the Renishaw AM400. It's a single laser machine, 400 watt, and it's a very capable machine, and we are still learning its limits. But yeah, it's a very good piece of hardware to have, and it's really helping shape what we can produce from injection molding.
So I like how you said you're still learning, because that's never going to stop, right?
Right.
When it's
Right.
technology. So that segues nicely into the point of all this conversation today is about education. So you guys have said to me over several conversations how important it is to your team to educate the industry, people, customers, and peers about additive manufacturing. So where does that come from? Why is it so important to you guys, Matt?
So, I mean, I've been involved with educating people on AM period for going on a little over 7 years now, from OEM to general AM, and now specifically in mold building. But there's so much misunderstanding in the industry, in the AM industry, not just in mold making, across everybody, that they were burned by it early on because the machines weren't quite ready to do production grade, or they went with the wrong technology, stuff like that. And it's something that, unless you're going to certain four-year universities, you're not going to really get exposure to it, which doesn't help a huge percentage of the population of people in manufacturing that aren't going to get real exposure to it. And the reason we want to keep pushing it is because if you don't understand, especially in a technical industry like mold making, if you don't understand it, you're not going to adopt it. And more people need to adopt it to really get the benefits, because it is the future of how you're going to improve molding. You're not going to be able to reduce cycle times any more than you already have, basically, with traditional methods, unless a brand new material that can, actively pull heat out of a block, which isn't likely to happen. You got to look at other ways to do it, and you got to look at efficiencies in that process and part consolidation, actually adopting all the value that aerospace and medical and other industrial applications have adopted in AM. They can bring parts together, they can repair, they can add new features, they can do both. They can repair and add new features at the same time, depending on what you need to do. And there's so much that people just don't understand what is actually going on in the technology, but also how it translates to the real world.
Yep.
Yeah.
So how is Action Mold? Like, what's your part in actually what is your part in educating? What are you actually doing?
We're basically being as transparent as we can. Like we have a couple small projects that we're just kind of, I don't want to say just starting, but are in the earlier stages that we're not going to share because we have something very special in the works. But in terms of the actual process, how we design a part, what we look at for cooling lines, for developing the ability to print larger cooling lines, venting, whatever it may be, we want to show everybody, here's what you can do. And we're happy to talk you through how we did it, because there isn't anything to be had in holding everything back to say, well, only we can do this. No, if everybody can understand how to do it, then it saves us time because we don't have to redesign everything to do more. It's a little
That's
bit
true.
quicker of a process.
Right,
We can get
right.
we can get the part printer, we can get people using it. And the more people see the performance improvements, the sooner they see that, the sooner they can take the next step to say, okay, can you help us understand how to do this more, the design work more internally, right?
Yeah.
Which frees up more time for us to do other things to push our capabilities a little bit further, but also lets everybody understand where, okay, if they don't come to us for 100% of their work, if the work that they're having printed triples, okay, even if we only have a portion of that, we can still, we grow, they grow, everybody gets more out of it. And it's a benefit for everybody through the whole process.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
like how you're using social media too. You have, since we've been introduced, you're being very transparent and sharing. I love the videos and the photos and the applications that you're taking people through a little bit of a journey. I'm hoping that's working for you. So, and I hope the conversations that we have will open up more people to maybe seek you out and participate in conversations across
Yeah,
social media.
yeah, that's kind of what we're shooting for with that. You know, it's as you as the mold buyers get educated, and it's not that they don't know what makes a good tool, but when they don't understand how additive can benefit the molding to the degree that it can, um, you know, I like to say they're tripping over dollars to pick up pennies. You know, they look at the cost of an insert and they don't want to have it printed because, well, it's 2 times or 3 times the amount of money as a traditional insert. But you know, the education part comes in showing them where, you know, if it can reduce your cycle time and you can save money in the press, that's what you need to be looking at.
Yeah. You got to look down the road a little further, right?
Right,
Than that
right.
initial part. You would
Yep,
think that would be at this stage in the game, that would be something that would be obvious, but it's just not. And
mhm,
depending on who you're dealing with, right, at that customer, they're not, sometimes they don't even get it, nor do they
right,
care.
right.
It's all about the actual cost. So right now, what would you say is Action's goal with additive manufacturing at this point?
At this point, what we're doing is we're retrofitting a lot of our own tooling. We've got a molding operation, and we have approximately 30 tools that we own, and we are going through those one at a time, and we're retrofitting them where we can, where it makes sense, um, to reduce cycle times. And in doing that, not only reduce cycle times, but improve part quality, less warpage, more consistent part shot from part to part. Um, the more we do that, the larger the case study becomes, right?
Yep.
The more tools that we have that we can say, look, you know, we went from 23 seconds down to 15 seconds on a particular horticulture tool. We went from 38 seconds down to 23 seconds on a some type of industrial product for public works.
Okay.
And you know, we're slowly building these cases that we can then show people. And the ones that need to see it and the ones that need to understand it are the people that are making the decision to buy the tool.
Yeah.
And that's what we're
Yeah.
hoping to do, is we're hoping to affect that.
So it's a real asset that you are able, like you have the technology and the setup to do that with your own tools. Because a lot of times, I can speak from the editorial side, there are great stories out there that people don't want to get press about, right? They want to keep it to themselves. So it's nice. It seems like that's the ideal way, are people that have those capabilities molding in-house to actually, you're doing everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're able to prove out and have your own case studies that you have permission to talk about.
Right,
So that's an
right.
asset.
Well, and I think the value add from my experience of what's shared across AM applications as a whole, I know I've been involved with aerospace projects where it was 3 different companies competing against each other, making almost the same geometry. There's little differences that each one claims is better than the other ones, but it's all basically the same material, a lot of times coming from the same powder supplier, running on the same machines, but they have different parameter sets. They won't say what they did.
Okay.
They won't say how they've done it, but there's, you know, thousands upon thousands of tensile bars that have been printed in one material from one supplier on a single model of machine that all have slightly different properties, but they aren't willing to share that all together to say, here's what we've got so that they can start to improve some of the standards. And that's finally starting to come along. But I know that that's the case in the US, it's the case in Europe, it's the case all over the world. Of everybody's got these little pockets of information that they aren't sharing.
Yeah.
Where we wanted to get all that information out there and be able to show everybody, here's what you can do.
And that's what we're doing, and who knows, it may backfire on us. I don't know. I'm just being honest.
It's certainly setting you up as a leader with this. And I can tell you by covering it, MoldMaking Technology has been covering additive 3D printing, rapid prototyping since we started the magazine back in the late 90s, right? So it's just kind of increased, but I still believe there's that same sentiment about it though. Like it's this extra thing, we outsource it, or maybe we'll get to that. So I believe after conversations with you, you are setting yourself up as a leader, and by educating, I just think people will follow suit. I think you're going to learn that this is the right thing to do, is to be honest and transparent.
Right. I think so.
So let's get on to the people side, because when it comes to any new technology, especially additive, it can be a little tricky. So how were you able to get the buy-in from your entire team?
Well, that was pretty easy. When our owner said he wanted to look at additive manufacturing, we started investigating some of it, him and I and one other individual here, and we kind of made a decision, and we said that's the direction we're going. And we moved forward. We bought the equipment, we brought it in, and there were a lot of questions, but no one ever came and was adamantly opposed to us having this technology or trying to build a whole new side of our mold manufacturing business. They looked at it, and after a little bit of explanation and sharing with them how many parts are built additively already around the world, and then when you compare it to the amount that could possibly be built, the growth factor there is huge. So we're looking at that and saying molding is great, and we're going to do everything we can to help advance the molding industry,
Of course.
and build better tools. But beyond that, I'm looking at the horizon and saying molding is just mold making, and mold inserts are just one facet. What else can we do with it?